All right, Moto Maddox here in the garage. We're gonna do some maintenance to the Kawasaki Z900. This is actually something that the manufacturer recommends you check before every ride. I don't know too many people that do that every ride, but it's about time to check the slack on my chain. So I recently cleaned the bike and put some chain lube on it, and I do notice that, you know, the chain has a bit of slack in it. You know, this isn't really something you can just eyeball. So you're supposed to measure the actual slack in the chain, and right here on the swing arm of this Z900 gives you the exact instructions. You know, check within the middle point, and the adjustment range should be between 1 and 1.4 inches. So what we're going to do is a couple things. We're going to do it the old school way by just using you know, a regular you know, ruler. So I have this L square that I'm going to use, but I also purchased a tool, the Slacksetter Pro. So I'm going to do a review of this tool to see if it makes the job easier, adds any additional precision to the measurements, or if it's just better or quicker to just use a ruler or tape measure. So one of the things you're supposed to do is do this while it's on the side stand. So I'll get it off of the rear spool stands and let's test this out. So before jumping right in, just a quick overview of what you need to set your chain slack. So there's going to be a nut that needs to come off here. Kawasaki was nice enough to tell you the size on this cap. So if you take this little cap off, you see it has 27. So we'll use a 27 millimeter socket for that. You'll also notice that there is a cotter pin, so we're gonna have to remove that cotter pin. I did order a couple cotter pins from Kawasaki. They were only like $1.50. I mean, of course, you can probably get a box of these from Amazon or any other random place, but you know, something this important is not really worth skimping on. You know, that's a pretty important safety fastener. You really don't supposed to use them once, you know, so when you fix this back to the bike, you can see you're gonna bend it up, and so I would imagine, you know, the more times you bend, you know, those little tabs back and forth, you're gonna weaken you know, the fastener. So if you can, just go ahead and buy a couple so you have them. We also have a couple 12 millimeter wrenches, and that's gonna be used to help us adjust the actual rear wheel when we need to. So you can kind of see that on both sides there's going to be this adjustment nut that either pushes the rear wheel back, or you can turn it in if you need to bring the wheel in some. So and also a breaker bar and torque wrench, because we want to make sure we fasten this back up with the appropriate torque. So let's get to it. Like I said, first thing is we want to take this cotter pin out. So just trying to flatten that. So that cotter pin is out. This is a 27. We'll go ahead and break that loose. I'll break a bar. Easiest 1, 2, 3. Loosen it up just a little bit more. So that's pretty loose. So that should be able to move freely. Alright, so that should be a better view. So you're supposed to put however you're measuring, like halfway. So I think that's like the halfway point. And it looks like, I'm trying to see how far the chain is deflecting. So I'm actually laying flat on the ground just so I can get a good look. So if I push it down, I'm deflecting a 1/2 inch from like the 8-inch mark, and I push it up, going from 8 to 9. Actually, that's not too bad. It said about an inch, 1.5 inches. Let me double check this. So deflecting down a 1/2 inch, but if I'm going up, okay, so I do need to bring it out just a little bit because the maximum deflection should be less than 1.5 inches, a little bit. Let me see, check in the middle a little bit. Deflecting down a 1/2 inch, going up a whole inch. Yeah, so hopefully that shows on the camera. I was measuring sort of at this length. You know, when I push it down, you can see it goes down a 1/2 inch, and then it goes up right to 9. So I'm already at about 1.5 inches, and I need to be a little bit less than that. So I'm going to back this wheel out just ever so slightly, and it looks like a good point maybe is to get to that 3rd tick mark on the swing arm. You know, it's pretty cool that pretty much everything you need is almost built into the motorcycle itself. So that was pretty simple with the ruler. Now let's see if this Slacksetter Pro makes that measurement any easier. So let's try it with this. Alright, so let's open this bad boy up. And I already see that I'm gonna have to maybe rotate this around to get, well, yeah, I'm gonna rotate this around just so I can see the measurement marks right. So let me get a little Allen key to change that. All right, so there's a little spot at the bottom. Let's see, which size is this? So that is a 4. So just loosen it up just a little bit so I can rotate. Absolute measurement, slack measurement. Well, this is already, what do you mean absolute measurement and slack measurement? All right, so evidently I'm gonna need to look at the instructions to make sure I'm doing this right. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and tighten this back up. All right, so I had a little bit of time to practice, using the tool. You essentially put it over center link. You push the tool all the way up to the top of the swing arm. Pinch that, then you let it drop down, then you kind of pull it as well. And so you can see it, I'm about 35 millimeters. So let's repeat that. Push up, pinch, pull down. Actually, it's about 40. So this is actually pretty precise and very repeatable, which is cool. So what we'll do is we'll back this, back the wheel off. Like I said, I want to do about a tick. You can see it's just short of that third tick mark. Let's actually go around on the other side. It's also a little short, so I'm gonna line it up to that third tick mark on both sides, and we should be good. So while we're over here, why don't we do this one? So let's set the GoPro up, get a couple tools. So I'm gonna loosen up this lock nut first. Didn't take too much pressure to break that loose. So now I should be able to back out using this bolt. I should be able to back that out, lined up with that third tick mark. But before I do that, let's put it back on the rear stand. Then we'll drop it down to measure it again. Actually see it moving back. Let's take you on this side. So we want to get that to 3. I want that to be exactly at 3. Chain's a little tight. Let's measure it. Let's tighten that up. All right, so we'll get it off the swing arm stand. Let's use the old school method. Trying to get that. So it deflects. Let me see. I want this to be. So it deflects a 1/4 inch. Goes up a 1/2 inch. So we're actually under an inch now. So I may have tightened it a little too much. Let's check it with this tool. Yeah, so we're at about 20, so we backed it out a little too far. So we'll bring it in a few ticks, get it back in spec. So it's deflected in half. So that looks good. Test it with the tool. Oh yeah, just right where we need it. So, I mean, the tool is a bit more precise, but it's a little finicky to use. I guess if you're trying to save space, you know, like a track day or something, you know, maybe this is better to have. But if you have the flexibility of being in your garage, you can just pull out any, you know, ruler slash tape measure. The tape measure works perfectly fine. So cool to have, not a must have. Like I mentioned, if it's just something you want to keep in like a toolbox for doing this on the go, then that's good to have. So I'll double check the bolts. I'll put this back on the rear stand, make sure that my measurements are super precise. I want this to be even, and then I'll tighten up that lock nut. And when I'm talking about measurements, I'm talking about literally a fingernail. Let me give you a zoom in. I originally thought it'd be easier to just go right to this tick mark, but that made it too tight, so I had to come in just a hair right inside of the third tick mark. And if you look on the other side, right inside. So if you put your fingernail to cover the third tick mark, the line for the wheel should be just inside. So it's a pretty significant amount of travel in between these tick marks. So I guess that gives you some flexibility for I guess different size chain sprockets or whatever else you need, you know, different kind of chains or whatever setup. So this is a lot of play you have in here. All right, so let's double check the tightness on these, look at the torque specs for this axle bolt, and then we'll get that torque down. All right, so I have my torque wrench, and the Kawasaki owner's manual says to set the torque to 81.1 foot-pounds. I actually found it quicker on the Z900 forums, but I was just trying to double check and make sure. So shout out to Z900 forums. Make sure I'm on the right side. There we go. And actually the hole for the cotter pin almost lines up perfectly. Let me see if I can't get the cotter pin to go in. Almost. So I don't want to back it off. It says if you can't get it in, to tighten it up to the next hole. So This is gonna be tighter than the 80. You can see it's like right there. All right. I think that gives us enough space. Perfect. Bend them around to the side. All right. Yeah, and I'm gonna just toss this used cotter pin. You know, in principle, if you had to reuse it, if you're in a bond, you know, you could maybe, you know, pop this back in, but, you know, I ordered 2 of these, so I have a fresh one in, and I'll toss this old one. So chain adjustment is done. And yeah, like I was saying in the beginning, even though it says, you know, the chain slack should be checked before each ride. I mean, that's a general good quick check. You should, you know, be able to do a little quick check like that. But in the owner's manual, like a full-on measurement and everything should be done every 600 miles for the Kawasaki Z900. All right. So the verdict: the Slacksetter, cool tool, gives you pretty repeatable, precise measurements. It's a bit finicky to use. You know, regular tape measure or ruler works just fine.